Let's just keep pretending, right? Let's just keep pretending like we're okay with how this world is ran. Let's just keep pretending like like you're okay with, the structure of this land, the laws of this land. You know how things is going, how things been going. Let's just keep pretending. It's only but so long you can pretend. You can keep pretending. Like, like there ain't no issue. It's only but so long you can keep ignoring the elephant in the room. You know what I'm saying? It's only so long you could do that. You know what blows my mind? What blows my mind is that whenever I think of slogans like, "Oh, what you gonna be when you grow up," or it could be anything you want to be, or boom, in the army they run off the slogan, "Be all you can be." I say that to say this, like they've been feeding us this pretending. You've been fed a pretend game this whole time. Like you a fucking child, you know what I mean? They start when you a child. It starts when you a child. It be so embedded in you. It be so embedded in your mental that anything else you'll have to question. Anything else you'll have to question. Its validity. That's what you call, a form like dogma. I'm gonna make a video on that. That should be out here soon. Dogma and propaganda. I'll speak on that and make a video on that. But this pretend game, I think of it like, it's very harmful. It's very free thinking ish, if that makes sense. Like follow me when I say free thinking, meaning you got the power to think freely, right? You could think however you want to think, even when it comes to convincing yourself that it ain't so bad, or trying to justify certain wrong things, justify what's going on around you. Like you start to pretend. You start to pretend like I said, like it ain't so bad. That don't hurt. That don't bother me. And then on the flip side of that, you even begin to indirectly you signing up with the exact opposition against your morals. Like you pretend like as if you know what I mean? Like it ain't against your morals. You pretend like that ain't wrong. When you know right from wrong, you know what's right. You know the just thing to do. You know what I'm saying? Like it becomes you going along to get along. Like the pretending shit. They teach you how to pretend. I don't know if you noticed that. They teach you how to pretend here in this society. They very much teach you how to pretend. Everything be like, fairy tale-ish. Everything be ish, period. Like, use your imagination, Billy. Pretend this is a rocket ship. Or you use your imagination, Sally. That's a crazy name, but it's the first name that came to my mind anyway. Sally Struthers or whatever. Pretend. They teach you how to pretend like it's pretend this is your kitchen, your real oven. You're baking a cake. Pretend you driving a race car. Pretend you a police. Yeah, they get you when you're young with all this pretending shit. And then you get older and the game still goes, it's just in a different manner. The pretend game still goes on, it's just in a different manner. It's more it's more advanced and you're dealing with adults, adult toddlers. Like how are we as a a human race still pretending like, different atrocities, different things ain't happened. It's not all of us, of course. The ones that know who I'm talking about as far as denying or, sweeping shit under the rug. I mean, you know who you are. It's just, I look at it, I look at it as like, at some point, at some point, what, the chicken is gonna come home to roost. Like at some point, you gotta face it. We gotta face it and right the wrong. You know what I mean? Like we can't keep pretending and being selective on different outrages. Selective outrage on different, events that happen, things that's happening in this world. People being very selective, and that ain't right. Excuse me. Like it's only it's only so long you could do that. It's only so long you could do that. Smiling in people's face. You got one hand behind your back. You know what I mean? Like dangling steaks on the stick. Like this is a crazy ass fucking world once you realize it, man. And it shouldn't depress you or what have you, but at the same time, I feel like it should. If it doesn't, you ain't alive. I'm a firm believer in feeling what you feel. Go through it. That way you can, you know what I mean? You can develop the tools you need to fucking combat it. Medicine it, remedy it. Like it's necessary. I'm always going to look at, adversity as always a form of getting you out of your comfort zone, pushing forward. But continuing the pretend game, like, let's pretend, like, continue to play this whole pretending game with these folks. It's only making you stagnant. It's only, in a way, I could say it's only weakening you when you just keep going along to get along. Like, what can I do? I'm only one person. Like, and it's like, with that attitude, yeah, fuck you then. Like, it's like, nah, man. Like, more of us need to actually come together. That's where it comes from. That's what's needed. You got to come together to rise up against a such system. This oppression. Like, it didn't start overnight in the civil rights movement and shit. Like, it started with one, moved to four. You know what I mean? Like, this is just how it goes. And then you gotta know that everybody ain't gonna go. They like to pretend. They like to pretend like it ain't there. They like to pretend that racism doesn't exist. They like to pretend these things. They're okay with it. They're okay with different things that happen. They're okay with working for somebody, being borrowing from them as a lender. Like, they okay with how things is set up. They're okay with how it's all ran. Notice this when you talk to certain individuals. Like, say you talk to them about, like, and I'm a firm believer in reachable, attainable businesses. Like I'm not just your cliche, clothing line, T-shirts and shit like that. Like, boom, man, we can go get this laundromat. Like, and you gotta understand, these is a lot of businesses that these people done foreclosed on. You know what I mean? These people done failed in. And it'd be right there in your neighborhood. It'd be right there in your neighborhood, right there in your town. Now, say you pitch that to a brother, or multiple, or a few cats, and they don't receive it well. Like, basically, like, it's a myth that they got running, a running narrative that black people don't like to do business with each other. That's got to change. You see what I mean? That narrative has to definitely change. Like, we ain't gonna keep feeding their little pretend game. You know what I mean? Their myths. You know what I mean? Their bullshit that they got going. Turning in. You know what I mean? As you can see, that when they attack the youth, when they go at the kids, at the babies, that's a very much a tactic of war, man. That's definitely a tactic of war. That's declaring war on your people. When they plant a seed of destruction, deceitfulness, there's no good in it. The master of lies. You already know. So when they plant that plant that seed in the babies when they're young and all that, and the kids, like, that's a sign of war, man. So it's up to us as black men to lead the pack, lead the way, lead the path, and right these wrongs. Like, let's stop pretending like it ain't nothing we can do about it. Let's stop pretending like, oh, you actually need this. You know what I mean? Be biting off more than we could chew. Like, nah, man. Like, just start it. That's the hurdle right there. Starting, beginning. The beginning is the hardest part. Everything else, it's going to iron itself out. Just taking the righteous step of beginning is you know what I'm saying, is the hardest part. Banding together and coming together and for one righteous cause, one cause, you know what I'm saying? That seems to be the hardest part. Because everybody, be on different pages. Majority of people, like I said, they like to pretend like this and that don't even exist. I could say that growing up, this was a real big conversation amongst the black community. This is when you used to see people in their cross colors in their car kanai, the red, black, and green, you know what I mean, colors and all that. I guess it was like Pan-Africanism in the 90s and all this shit. And then you know what I mean, within the community you'll have certain ones being like, oh, the white man this, my brother, they hit you with the my brother and all that bullshit. And then you got ones that are like, yeah, that's bullshit, you know what I mean, whatever. White man ain't holding me back, shit like that. Like we had a conflict within each other just on whether or not shit is true or not. And that was a problem. And now here we are, things done revealed itself, like a lot of things that maybe a lot of us didn't know. I could say I didn't know a lot of things. I'm a little boy during them times. So I would hear my uncles or, older cats, use tropes like the white man this, white man that. And of course I didn't know the whole ins and outs and the politics of it, but at the same time you see the struggle as a little kid. You see the struggle in your people and your parents, you know what I mean, your grandparents. You see the struggle in them. And they often, I can also say this, being that we talking about the pretend game, you could see the hold back, the restraint that your people would have to practice. They would have to enforce and practice in their daily. Like sometimes you would see your mom or your father, your mother or your father pretend like everything is alright. Like they will pretend, you know what I mean, like they, like that home is stable. They pretend like, you know what I mean, they got the money for this or that, or it ain't that bad. And I commend the people that, the parents that did that. I had parents that was like that. My mother was like that. I never would have known how bad of a neighborhood I was in when I was little. Until as I got older, you know what I mean? When all of us got older and we start seeing more shit and getting into more shit, and that's how that goes. But when you got certain guardian that keep you from all that, like I think of that movie, The Pursuit of Happiness, how they, he had his little boy out there in the street, and he had to paint the picture. He had to make it not seem as what it is. Like he made it fun in a way. And he also built resilience in his son. He built, you know what I mean? He put that light. He lit that spark in his son through that situation, through them circumstances. But I just was speaking of, yeah, he made it seem like as if like they wasn't even homeless, and this is just a temporary thing. Like, when we gonna get through this? That's great parenting. He's pretending, you know what I mean? They're pretending. I think they were pretending in that little room or wherever, Meanwhile, he up here sleeping some room down in the subway station, at the train station. But parents often have to pretend for their kids, like pretend like the world ain't what it really is. You know what I mean? And that's, like I said, I commend that because at the same time, you don't want to be raising no duck. At some point, you got to break it to them. Like, don't be pretending with that whole Santa Claus and all that shit. Some fat white man jump down the chimney, eat cookies and shit. Like, yeah, don't be pretending with all that. That's you playing a little, pretend game. Easter bunnies and shit like that. Two fairies and all that. Like, make up your own shit. You know what I mean? But yeah, at some point you're gonna have to break it to them. You know what I mean? You gotta break it to them that this life shit, this world ain't no joke. You know what I mean? It'll chew you up. It'll chew you up and then spit you out. You know what I'm saying? You gotta actually prepare them. Stop pretending like it ain't what it really is. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you ain't gotta be all spooky with it or whatever. You don't gotta be all, you know what I mean, scary and aggressive and all that shit, about it. It's have an approach of, hey man, well, I'm gonna teach you some things. You instill accountability, you instill responsibility, different things that, will equip them when they hit the ground running out here, man. Cause it'd be a lot of pretend shit, but if you jump on that hamster wheel pretending with them, yeah, you either gonna be like that bullshit, you know what I mean, which, you bound to drown, or you can, actually, seek the truth. Seek the truth, move in a whole different manner. There's a lot of pretending going on. There's a lot of pretending going on. I'm talking about every way, which way you look. Pretending. Like, identity crisis, denial, just straight, talk about gaslighting, no accountability, all that, all that goes on in a daily. What I just read recently. Now, I know this whole quote, but it was just cool to read this. Don't allow people to do anything to you. You're teaching them how to treat you by what you allow. You know what I mean? You can't just be, allowing anything to happen. You're that's how you know what I mean? You setting the table. You teaching people how to treat you. And like I say that to say this because it's like when you sit there and keep playing this pretend game, you teaching, like you're basically teaching yourself how to just look the other way. Deal with it. Not do nothing about it, just deal with it. Like eventually it just, it becomes you. You're not even fazed by nothing anymore. You know what I mean? You just are numb to it. Like, for example, all the, these mass shootings, as you can see, they have a culture of just ignoring these things. You know what I mean? Straight up, pretending like it ain't even happening. Like it ain't a bunch of these unalivings. Like they ain't people unaliving cops. Like that, they ain't school shootings. They ain't, they actually just that pretend thing is a part of the culture. And in a way, that shit rubs off on us because you become stagnant. You become, paralyzed, like on some shit like, oh, I can't do nothing about it. I'm not in position to do nothing about it. And that's not true. That's not true. And like I said, the pretending, going along to get along and all this bullshit, pretending, that shit is harmful. It's very harmful. You know, it holds you back, of course. You're not allowing yourself to reach your full potential. Reach for what's rightfully yours. You know, stop pretending like this and that ain't bothering you. This and that ain't a problem. Like, no, actually face it. You know what I mean? Feel that feeling. Get angry about it. Of course, just don't sin. Get angry about it. Just don't sin. Have those uncomfortable conversations. Stop pretending like, you know what I mean? Everything all gravy. Everything is all, cupcakes and rainbows. Like, nah, have that uncomfortable conversation amongst each other, even within different races. Like, for the people that say they stand with us, they stand with foundational Black Americans, stand for, you know what I mean? Hey, like, have these uncomfortable conversations with people that don't, that are open to, gain understanding. That be the main reason why there's friction, is from lack of understanding. That'd be the main reason. I done seen stories. I done seen so many stories. I'm sure you've seen them on YouTube or Netflix, where they have the KKK dudes or different ones that are so hateful. Even like grand wizards, motherfuckers that they're the leaders of the shit, and they get a change of heart. Yeah, it may be a ploy, it may be fake, but I'm a firm believer in things like that, though. I'm firm, but that doesn't mean that they're not gonna fight for their people. I expect that. I expect that. But one thing for sure, like, you'll once you gain understanding, like, boom, the understanding of, hey, every walk of life on this earth is wanting to thrive, wanting growth, wanting to live peacefully. They want to have a roof over their head. They want to eat. You know what I mean? Come and go as they please. The basics. You know what I'm saying? Raise their kids. The basics. These are the basics. Grow their own food. You know what I'm saying? Be able to, maximize their opportunities. Like, it's just, to me, that's the basics. That's the basics. And once we have that understanding, like, I don't see how how a man can call themselves a man if they don't stand on that. Like, problem solving, basically. Solving the problems. You can't keep pretending like you a man if you're not about wanting to solve the problem, if you're not about solving problems. Or standing on anything, for that matter. Because, like, I'm always say this as well. If you're not with that, at least stand on what you stand on. You know what I mean? At least stand on what you stand on. Don't straddle one foot over, on the righteous side, fighting for this cause, and then had a foot on the other side, against the actual cause that you gotta fit. It's crazy. It's what you're dealing with. Let's not pretend like that ain't what you seeing. You seeing straight hypocrisy. You seeing straight, you know what I mean, lack of integrity. You seeing all that balled up in one. And it's quite disgusting. It's quite spooky. It's quite spooky. Like, it's just not. It's not something that no human being should be okay with. Like we see different things come across our timeline, and you know, motherfuckers, you go through these stages of grief, right? And you don't even know the person. That's what's crazy. That's even wilder. But at the same time, like just having a connection to the stranger, you know, the empathy or the sympathy of the situation, you know, the unaliving or whatever it is that come across your feed on the algorithm. You know what I mean? You'll go through these stages of your care, like some would call it fake care, because what I'm saying as far as these stages, this is why I say some will call it fake care. You'll care about it, and then a week later or a day later, or even probably an hour later, you know what I mean? It's out of your brain now. Like you know, you might show one or two colleagues or family members or coworkers or whatever, you know, oh, you see that? You heard about this? I heard about that. And then it's on to the next one. It's on to the next one. You pretended like you gave a fuck about it. You pretended like you might even go as far as pretending like, man, we should make a change. Something's got to change. We got to do something about this. Hour later, all that shit go out the window. Like you're not really, you know what I mean? You're not really like that. You're not really for the cause. You're not really. You don't really want to break off of the grid. You know what I mean? Go against this corrupt system. You don't really want to go against it. You're just pretending, and it's, you know, to me that's a waste of time, especially when they link up with people that are actually about their BI, about their business. You know what I'm saying? That person might not even know that they dealing with fugaziness. They dealing with a whole fake Karen, you know, fake activists, fake, you know, got a whole different motive on why they even, you know what I mean, are speaking on this. As you can see, they made it popular. A big part of this pretend game is this social media shit. They made it popular for people to have a platform to where you can just post all kind of rhetoric, post all different angles is on this internet shit. All angles. Say you fighting for a cause, you got a whole audience on the other side of the spectrum that's going against your cause specifically. And you know what I mean? And a lot of it won't even have no legs. A lot of it ain't even, you know, very true to their cause, true to their stance. A lot of it just, you know what I mean, come and go. Like I said, a lot of it just comes and go. You know, do what's popular. Just jump on the bandwagon. You know, your BLMs, you know what I mean? The different. I say that's what MAGA was. MAGA is or whatever. That's what I say. Because when you're dealing with them folks, they really don't know if they coming or going. So it's, you know, if you told them how to live another 100 years without no wrinkles in their face and shit, yeah, you know, and you showed them, yeah, they'll jump on that shit, man. They pretend like they stand on business. About the only thing I could say that the white supremacists stand on is anti-you, anti-black. That's one thing that is perpetual. Yeah, well, that's one thing that is perpetual. They can't pretend that. Ain't that something?